The stars above Earth were unusually bright that night, their cold light piercing through the smoggy atmosphere like tiny pinpricks in a dark curtain. Humanity had long since stopped gazing at them with wonder. Centuries of expansion into space had turned the cosmos into something practical, a resource to exploit, a frontier to conquer, a place to escape the ruins of their home planet. But tonight the heavens seemed different, almost alive. On Mars Colony Alpha, far away from Earth's dying glow, a teenage girl named Lily Monroe sat cross-legged on the floor of her cramped quarters. Her fingers moved deftly over an old-fashioned radio set she'd scavenged from a junkyard weeks ago. The device was ancient by modern standards, its dials and knobs worn smooth from years of use. Most people thought it was useless now, a relic from a time when communication relied on wires and waves instead of neural implants and quantum links, but Lily loved it. There was something comforting about the way it hummed softly under her touch, as if it carried secrets only she could hear. Her parents didn't understand why she spent so much time tinkering with outdated technology. "You should focus on your studies," her mother said one evening while stirring a pot of synthetic stew. "Engineering or biology. Something useful." Useful? Lily thought bitterly. Everything on Mars revolved around being useful. Useful for mining, minerals, useful for growing food indoors, useful for surviving another day in this desolate red wasteland. But tonight there was no homework waiting for her, no chores piled up by her father. Just the quiet buzz of static coming from the radio. She twisted the frequency dial slowly, listening intently for anything unusual. Sometimes she caught fragments of old broadcasts, snippets of music or voices speaking languages she couldn't identify. But most nights, all she heard was silence. Tonight, however, something felt off. A faint whisper seeped through the static, barely audible but unmistakable. It wasn't like any voice she'd ever heard before. It sounded distant, distorted, almost mechanical, yet undeniably human. Lily froze, her hand hovering over the dial. She leaned closer, straining to catch more words. For a moment, she thought she might be imagining things. After all, who else would be using such an old system? Everyone on Mars used neural nets or hollow communicators now. No one bothered with radios anymore. "Hello?" she whispered hesitantly, pressing the transmit button. Her voice echoed back at her through the speaker, tinny and small. Silence followed. Then came the whisper again. "Clearer this time, help me." Lily's heart skipped a beat. She glanced toward the door, half expecting someone to burst in and tell her she was dreaming. But the room remained empty, lit only by the dim orange glow of her desk lamp. Trembling slightly, she pressed the button again. "Who's there?" This time, the response was immediate. "Can you hear me?" "Yes," she exclaimed, clutching the edge of the table. "Where are you? What's happening?" "I don't know," the voice replied. It sounded desperate, scared. "I can't move, I can't see anything, please help me." Lily wanted to ask more questions, but before she could respond, the connection cut out abruptly, leaving her alone with the hiss of static once again. She stared at the radio, her mind racing. Was it some kind of prank? A glitch in the system? Or was someone really trapped somewhere, calling for help? Meanwhile, millions of miles away on Earth, a young engineer named Alex Carter stood in front of a massive holographic display in the United Nations Space Command Center. The room buzzed with activity as scientists, military personnel, and politicians debated what to do about the mysterious object that had appeared in orbit around Saturn just 2 days earlier. Dubbed the Visitor by the media, the alien structure loomed ominously in the blackness of space, its surface shimmering with iridescent patterns that shifted constantly, like oil floating on water. Alex adjusted his glasses nervously as he studied the data streaming across the screen. He wasn't supposed to be here. Junior engineers rarely got assigned to high-profile projects like this. But when one of the senior staff called in sick, Alex found himself thrust into the spotlight. Now, he stood shoulder to shoulder with some of the brightest minds in the solar system, trying not to look completely out of place. "So what do we know so far?" asked Commander Lisa Torres. her sharp eyes scanning the assembled team. She was tall and imposing, with short gray hair and a no-nonsense demeanor that made even seasoned veterans sweat. "It's unlike anything we've encountered before," replied Dr. Samuel Patel, the lead xenobiologist. His accent betrayed his Indian heritage, though he'd lived on Earth for decades. "Based on initial scans, the material composition is, well, let's just say it doesn't match anything in our databases. And then there's the energy signature. It's fluctuating erratically, almost like it's alive." "Alive?" Torres repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Are we talking artificial intelligence or biological life forms?" "That's the thing," Patel admitted. "We're not sure. The readings suggest both possibilities, which makes it incredibly difficult to predict how it will behave." Alex listened intently, scribbling notes onto his tablet. As fascinating as the discussion was, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important, something obvious. While everyone else focused on analyzing the physical properties of the visitor, Alex kept returning to the same question. Why had it chosen Saturn? Of all the planets in the solar system, why settle near a gas giant with no habitable moons? Before he could voice his thoughts, alarms blared throughout the command center, startling everyone. Red warning lights flashed overhead as technicians scrambled to contain whatever emergency had arisen. On the main display, new data flooded in, showing a sudden spike in electromagnetic activity emanating from the visitor. "What's going on?" Torres demanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. "It's broadcasting something," shouted a technician seated at a nearby console. "Some kind of signal." "Can we decode it?" Patel asked, leaning forward eagerly. The technician shook his head. "Not yet. It's unlike any language or code we've seen before, but—" He hesitated, glancing at his screen. "It's affecting communications networks. We're picking up reports of widespread interference across multiple colonies." Alex's stomach tightened. If the signal disrupted communications, it could spell disaster for countless settlements scattered throughout the solar system. Without reliable contact, trade routes would collapse, emergency services would falter, and panic would spread faster than anyone could control. Back on Mars, Lily noticed the change almost immediately. One minute, she was attempting to re-establish contact with the mysterious voice on the radio. The next, every channel went dead. Even the ambient static disappeared, replaced by an eerie silence that filled the room like a thick fog. She tried switching frequencies, adjusting the antenna, even tapping the side of the device in frustration. But nothing worked. The radio was completely unresponsive. Frowning, she stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the colony looked normal enough. People moved between domed buildings carrying supplies or chatting casually. Nothing appeared out of the ordinary. Yet deep down, Lily sensed that something was wrong. Very wrong. Over the next few hours, the truth became impossible to ignore. By morning, the entire colony had fallen eerily quiet. Conversations ceased, mid-sentence. Hollow displays flickered and died. Emergency alerts went unanswered. Panic rippled through the streets as residents realized they could no longer speak, or even think clearly. Whatever had happened, it was spreading rapidly, engulfing everyone it touched in a suffocating void of silence. Everyone, that is, except Lily. She watched in horror as her parents collapsed onto the couch, their faces blank and expressionless. They weren't unconscious, they blinked, breathed, occasionally shifted positions, but they seemed utterly disconnected from reality, as if their minds had been switched off. Desperate for answers, Lily grabbed the radio and ran outside, hoping, against hope, that someone somewhere might still be able to hear her. What she found instead was devastation. The bustling hub of activity she'd known her entire life had transformed into a ghost town overnight. Doors hung open, abandoned vehicles littered the roads, and the air itself felt heavy, oppressive. Only the wind stirred, carrying faint whispers that sent shivers down her spine. And then, amidst the chaos, she saw him, a boy about her age, crouched behind an overturned cart, clutching a portable communicator to his chest. His eyes widened when he spotted her, and for a brief moment neither of them moved. Finally, he raised the device and tapped out a message. "Are you real?" Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. She didn't know how or why she was immune to whatever plagued the rest of the colony, but one thing was certain. She couldn't stay silent. Not now. Not ever. Little did she know, her decision to fight back would ignite a chain reaction that would change the fate of humanity forever. The silence that had fallen over Mars Colony Alpha was unlike anything Lily Monroe had ever experienced. It wasn't just the absence of sound, it was deeper, heavier, as if the very air around her had been drained of life. The colony, once bustling with activity, now felt like a graveyard. People wandered aimlessly, their eyes vacant, their movements stiff and robotic. Conversations were impossible. Even gestures seemed meaningless without the ability to explain or understand them. Lily stood in the middle of the empty street, clutching, the old radio tightly in her hands. Her heart raced as she turned in circles, searching for any sign of normalcy. But there was none. The boy she'd seen earlier, the one who had tapped out a message on his communicator, was gone now, vanished into the sea of silent figures. She called out to him, her voice cracking with desperation, but he didn't respond. No one did. It was strange how quickly things had changed. Just hours ago, the colony had been alive with noise, the hum of machinery, the chatter of neighbors, the distant rumble of transport vehicles moving between domes. Now, all of that was gone. The silence pressed against her ears, heavy and suffocating, making it hard to think clearly. Yet somehow she could still hear herself. Her thoughts were loud, almost too loud, bouncing around inside her head like echoes in a cavern. Lily knew she couldn't stay here. Whatever this was, a virus, an alien attack, some kind of technological malfunction, it was spreading fast. If she wanted answers, she needed to act quickly. She glanced back at her parents' apartment, where they sat motionless on the couch staring blankly at the wall. Leaving them behind felt wrong, but staying wouldn't help anyone. With a deep breath, she tightened her grip on the radio and started walking toward the colony's central hub. The central hub was the heart of Mars Colony Alpha, a massive dome filled with offices, research labs, and communication arrays. Normally, it would have been crowded with scientists, engineers, and administrators, all working tirelessly to keep the colony running smoothly. Today, it was eerily deserted. Dust swirled lazily in the corners, kicked up by the artificial wind. Systems that continued to operate despite the chaos outside. Monitors flickered on walls, displaying error messages or frozen images from before the silence began. Lily moved cautiously through the corridors, her footsteps echoing in the emptiness. Every so often, she passed someone sitting slumped against a wall or standing frozen in place, their faces blank and unresponsive. Each time she hesitated, wondering if they might snap out of it, but they never did. The silence had taken them completely. Her first stop was the communication center, a room lined with advanced equipment designed to connect the colony with Earth and other settlements across the solar system. She hoped to find some clue about what was happening, maybe even a way to contact someone outside the colony who hadn't been affected. But when she entered the room, she found it abandoned, the screens dark and the consoles dead. Frustrated, she slammed her fist against one of the panels, causing a shower of sparks to fly. "Come on," she muttered under her breath. "There has to be something." As she searched the room, her fingers brushed against a dusty piece of paper stuck to the side of a desk. It was a memo, written hastily in black ink. "Signal interference detected. Source unknown. All communication systems compromised." Beneath it, someone had scrawled a single word in capital letters. "Run." Lily stared at the note, her stomach sinking. Whoever had written it must have known something bad was coming. Had they managed to escape? Or had they ended up like everyone else, trapped in this endless void of silence? She tucked the note into her pocket and kept moving. Her next destination was the medical bay, located on the opposite side of the hub. If anyone had figured out what was causing this, it would be the doctors and researchers stationed there. Maybe they had left behind records or data that could help her understand what was going on. The journey to the medical bay felt longer than it should have. Every shadow seemed darker, every sound louder. Even the hum of the ventilation system grated against her nerves. At one point, she thought she heard footsteps behind her and spun around, ready to defend herself. But there was no one there. Just the oppressive silence waiting patiently to swallow her whole. When she finally reached the medical bay, she found it locked. The door refused to open, no matter how many times she pressed the access panel. Cursing under her breath, she grabbed a metal chair from a nearby lounge area and smashed it against the control panel until sparks flew. On the third try, the lock gave way, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the scene was chaotic. Papers were scattered across the floor, chairs overturned, and several pieces of equipment lay broken, as if someone had tried to destroy them in a hurry. A few bodies lay motionless on the ground, their faces pale and lifeless. Lily swallowed, hard, forcing herself to focus. She couldn't afford to fall apart. Not now. She made her way to the main computer terminal, a sleek device mounted on the wall. To her relief, it was still operational, though its screen displayed a series of cryptic warnings about corrupted files. Ignoring them, she began sifting through the data, looking for anything that might explain the silence. After several minutes of searching, she stumbled upon a folder labeled Anomaly Report. Opening it, she found a series of logs detailing strange occurrences in the days leading up to the outbreak. One entry caught her attention. Day 4. Unexplained signal detected originating from Saturn region. Initial analysis suggests non-human origin. Attempted jamming protocols ineffective. Signal appears to target neural pathways associated with speech and cognition. Further study required. Lily's hands trembled as she read the words. So it wasn't just Mars. This thing, whatever it was, had come from space, from Saturn, and it was targeting people's ability to communicate. That meant Earth and the other colonies were probably affected too. How many billions of lives were at stake? Before she could process the full weight of the revelation, a low hum filled the room. It started faintly, almost imperceptible, but grew louder and more intense with each passing second. The lights above her flickered, then dimmed, casting the room in shadow. Alarmed, Lily backed away from the terminal, her eyes darting around for the source of the noise. That's when she saw it. A glowing orb floated in the corner of the room, pulsating with a soft blue light. It was small, no bigger than a basketball, but it radiated an energy that made Lily's skin crawl. As she watched, mesmerized, the orb expanded slightly, its surface rippling like liquid. Then, without warning, it shot toward her. Instinctively, she ducked, covering her head with her arms. The orb zipped past her, narrowly missing her shoulder, and slammed into the wall behind her. Sparks erupted from the impact site and the hum grew deafening. Panicked, Lily scrambled to her feet and bolted for the door. Behind her, the orb hovered for a moment, then darted after her, faster than before. She ran blindly through the corridors, her heart pounding in her chest. The orb pursued her relentlessly, its glow illuminating the darkness. She didn't know what it was or why it was chasing her, but she knew one thing for certain. It wanted her silenced. Meanwhile, millions of miles away on Earth, Alex Carter sat hunched over his workstation in the United Nations Space Command Center, poring over data streams from the Visitor. The mysterious structure near Saturn had grown more active overnight, emitting waves of electromagnetic energy that disrupted communications across the solar system. Reports poured in from every colony, describing scenes eerily similar to what Lily was experiencing on Mars. This can't be coincidence, Alex muttered to himself, rubbing his temples. Whatever this thing is, it's doing this on purpose. He pulled up a map of the affected areas, marking each location where the silence had spread. The pattern was unmistakable. It radiated outward from Saturn, growing wider with each passing hour. At this rate, it would reach Earth within days, if it hadn't already. "What are you thinking?" asked Dr. Patel, who had been observing Alex's work quietly from the doorway. The xenobiologist's expression was grim, his usual calm demeanor, replaced by thinly veiled concern. "I'm thinking we're dealing with something far beyond our understanding," Alex replied. "This isn't just a random signal, it's targeting us. Specifically, it's targeting our ability to communicate. Patel nodded slowly. And if we lose that? He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Alex didn't need him to. Communication was the foundation of human civilization. Without it, society would crumble. Trade, diplomacy, science, all of it depended on the exchange of ideas. If the visitor succeeded in silencing humanity, the consequences would be catastrophic. We need to find a way to counteract it, Alex said firmly. If we can isolate the frequency or wavelength it's using, maybe we can create a shield or a jamming device. It's worth a shot, Patel agreed. But time is not on our side. As they worked together to analyze the data, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. There had to be a reason the visitor had chosen Saturn. Something about the planet, or perhaps humanity itself, that made it the perfect target. He just couldn't figure out what it was. Back on Mars, Lily finally managed to lose the orb by diving into a maintenance tunnel hidden beneath a grate. She lay on the cold metal floor. Lily Monroe lay in the maintenance tunnel, her chest rising and falling as she tried to catch her breath. The silence around her felt heavier than ever, pressing down on her like a weight. Her mind raced with questions she couldn't answer. What was that glowing orb? Why had it chased her? And most importantly, why was she still able to speak when everyone else had fallen silent? She forced herself to sit up, brushing dirt and dust from her clothes. Staying here wasn't an option. The orb might come back, or worse, others like it could appear. She needed to keep moving, to find answers, or at least someone who could help her make sense of what was happening. The tunnel was narrow and dark, lit only by the faint glow of emergency lights embedded in the ceiling. Pipes ran along the walls, some dripping condensation onto the floor. Lily followed the path cautiously, her footsteps echoing softly against the metal walls. Every so often, she paused to listen for signs of danger, but all she heard was the hum of machinery and the distant drip of water. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a larger chamber. It was part of the colony's underground infrastructure, a network of tunnels and storage rooms used for repairs and emergencies. Lily recognized the area from orientation sessions she'd attended when her family first moved to Mars. If memory served, there was a secondary communication hub nearby. Maybe she could use it to send a message outside the colony. Her hope renewed. Lily quickened her pace. She navigated through the maze-like corridors, relying on instinct and faded signs painted on the walls. Finally, she reached the door marked Com Hub B. It was locked, just like the medical bay had been, but this time she came prepared. Using a wrench she'd picked up earlier, she pried open the access panel and manually bypassed the lock. The room inside was smaller than the main communication center, but it still held a wealth of equipment. Monitors lined one wall, their screens flickering weakly. A large console dominated the center of the room, its surface cluttered with cables and tools. Lily approached it carefully, her eyes scanning for any sign of functionality. To her relief, the system powered on when she pressed the activation button. Static filled the speakers, accompanied by a low hiss. She adjusted the dials, searching for a clear frequency. At first, all she heard was noise, crackling static, distorted voices and strange tones that made her head ache. But then, amidst the chaos, a voice broke through. Repeat. This is Commander Ryan Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet. We are attempting to establish contact with any surviving colonies. Please respond if you can hear us. Lily froze, her heart skipping a beat. Someone out there was still talking. Someone hadn't fallen silent yet. She grabbed the microphone and pressed the transmit button. This is Lily Monroe from Mars Colony. Alpha, she said, her voice trembling. I'm here. I can hear you. For a moment, there was no response. Then the voice returned, tinged with disbelief. Lily? Is that really you? How are you still communicating? I don't know, Lily admitted. Everyone else? They've gone quiet. They can't talk anymore. But I can. I don't understand why. There was a pause on the other end. When Commander Hayes spoke again, his tone was urgent. Listen. Carefully, Lily. This isn't just happening on Mars, it's spreading across the entire solar system. Whatever's causing it originated near Saturn. Do you have access to any data about the signal? Anything that could help us figure out how to stop it? Lily thought back to the logs she'd found in the medical bay. I've seen reports about a signal targeting neural pathways. It's messing with people's ability to think and speak. There was something else too. A glowing orb. It chased me. Another pause. An orb? Describe it. It was small, blue and floating. It felt alive, like it knew I was different. Commander Hayes let out a sharp breath. That matches descriptions we've received from other survivors. These orbs seem to be sentinels patrolling areas affected by the signal. They're hunting anyone who resists. Lily shivered at the thought. What do we do? We're working on a solution, Hayes replied. But we need more information. Can you get us any data from your colony systems? Anything at all could be useful. I'll try, Lily promised. But I'm not sure how much longer I can stay. Hidden. Those orbs are everywhere. Do what you can, Lily. You're our best chance right now. Stay safe. The transmission cut off, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts. She stared at the console, her mind racing. For the first time since the silence began, she felt like she had a purpose. Commander Hayes had called her their best chance. That meant she couldn't afford to give up. Not now, not ever. Millions of miles away, Alex Carter sat in the United Nations Space Command Center, listening intently as Commander Hayes relayed his conversation with Lily. The room was tense, filled with scientists and military personnel who were struggling to comprehend the scale of the crisis. News of Lily's immunity had sparked both hope and confusion. She's immune? Dr. Patel asked, leaning forward in his chair. How is that even possible? That's what we need to figure out, Hayes replied. If we can understand why she's unaffected, we might be able to replicate it, or at least develop a countermeasure. Alex raised his hand hesitantly. Could it have something to do with the old radio she mentioned using? Maybe older technology isn't susceptible to the signal. It's worth investigating, Patel agreed, but we also need to consider biological factors. Is there something unique about her physiology? Or perhaps environmental exposure? Hayes nodded. We'll dispatch a team to retrieve her as soon as possible. In the meantime, Alex, I want you to focus on analyzing the signal itself. See if you can identify patterns or weaknesses we can exploit. Yes, sir, Alex replied, determination burning in his chest. He turned back to his workstation, pulling up the latest data streams from the visitor. The structure near Saturn continued to emit waves of energy, each pulse growing stronger and more erratic. Something big was coming. He could feel it. He worked. His mind kept returning to Lily. She was just a teenager, alone on a dying colony, fighting against forces far beyond her understanding. Yet she hadn't given up. She was risking everything to save humanity. Her courage inspired him, reminding him of why he'd become an engineer in the first place, to make a difference. Back on Mars, Lily returned to the central hub, determined to gather as much data as she could. The glowing orbs were still out, there. But she couldn't let fear stop her. Armed with the wrench and a small flashlight, she moved quickly through the deserted corridors, avoiding open spaces where she might be spotted. When she reached the medical bay, she found it exactly as she'd left it, chaotic and abandoned. The orb that had chased her earlier was nowhere to be seen, though she remained cautious. She retrieved a portable hard drive from a supply closet and connected it to the main terminal, downloading every file related to the anomaly. As the transfer progressed, she noticed something odd on one of the monitors. A live feed displayed footage from a surveillance camera positioned near the colony's airlock. Outside, the Martian landscape stretched endlessly, barren and desolate. But something was moving out there, something massive. Its shape was indistinct, shrouded in swirling clouds of dust, but it radiated the same eerie blue glow as the orbs. Lily's blood ran cold. Whatever it wasn't human, and it was heading straight for the colony. She yanked the hard drive from the terminal and stuffed it into her pocket. There was no time to waste. She sprinted back toward the maintenance tunnels, her mind racing. If that thing breached the airlock, it would spell disaster for everyone inside, including her. As she ran, she activated the old radio once more, hoping to reach Commander Hayes. The static crackled loudly before settling into a faint, Commander?" she whispered urgently. "Are you there?" "This is Hayes," came the reply. "What's wrong?" "There's something outside the colony," Lily said, glancing over her shoulder. "It's big and it's glowing. I think it's coming for us." Hayes's voice grew grim. "Hold tight, Lily. Reinforcements are en route. Just stay alive. Until we get there." "I'll try," Lily replied, her voice barely audible. "But hurry." She switched off the radio and ducked into the nearest tunnel, her heart pounding. The silence around her felt suffocating, a constant reminder of the stakes. Everyone depended on her now. Their lives, their voices, their future. She couldn't fail them. Little did she know, the battle was only beginning. The air in the maintenance tunnel was cold and damp, but Lily Monroe barely noticed. Her mind raced as she tried to figure out what to do next. The glowing thing outside the colony was getting closer. She could feel it. Every shadow seemed darker, every sound louder. She hugged the old radio close to her chest, its weight a small comfort in the overwhelming chaos. She knew she couldn't stay hidden forever. If the thing outside breached the airlock, it would only be a matter of time before it found her. But running blindly wasn't an option either. She needed a plan, a way to fight back, even if it felt impossible. Deep down, she knew that silence wasn't just about losing voices. It was about losing hope, losing humanity itself, and she refused to let that happen. Her thoughts turned to the hard drive in her pocket. It contained all the data she'd managed to salvage from the medical bay. Logs, reports, and fragments of information that might hold the key to understanding the signal. If she could get it to someone who knew how to use it, maybe they could find a way to stop this nightmare. But who? Commander Hayes had sounded distant, almost unreachable. Earth was millions of miles away, and help wouldn't arrive in time. Then, it hit her, the resistance. Earlier, when she'd been tinkering with the old radio, she'd picked up faint whispers from other survivors scattered across the colony. At first, she thought they were echoes or glitches, but now she realized they were real people, people like her, still able to hear and think clearly. If she could reach them, maybe together they could make a difference. Lily adjusted the frequency on the radio and pressed the transmit button. "Hello? Is anyone out there?" Her voice trembled slightly, but she forced herself to sound strong. "If you can hear me, please respond." For a moment, there was nothing but static. Then faintly, a voice crackled through the speaker. "This is Emma Lewis. Who's speaking?" Lily's heart leapt. "My name is Lily Monroe. I'm at Mars Colony Alpha. Are you immune too?" "Yes," Emma replied. Her voice was calm but tinged with exhaustion. "There are a few of us left. We've been trying to organize, but it's hard without proper communication. What do you need?" "I have data," Lily said quickly. "Information about the signal and the orbs. I think it might help us fight back. Can we meet somewhere safe?" Emma hesitated. "It's risky to move around. Those things are everywhere. But if you're serious about fighting, we'll find a way." "Where are you now?" "In the maintenance tunnels near the central hub," Lily answered. "I can try to reach you." "Good. We're holed up in section D12 near the agricultural dome. Be careful, it's not far from the airlock." "I will," Lily promised. "Thank you." As the transmission ended, Lily took a deep breath. She didn't know these people, but their determination gave her strength. Together, maybe they stood a chance. Meanwhile, Alex Carter sat hunched over his workstation in the United Nations Space Command Center, staring at streams of data flowing across his screen. The signal emanating from the visitor was growing stronger, its patterns more complex. He ran simulations, searching for weaknesses or inconsistencies that could be exploited. But the more he analyzed it, the more it baffled him. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered, rubbing his temples. "It's not just targeting neural pathways, it's adapting, learning." Dr. Patel leaned over his shoulder, studying the graphs and charts. "You're saying it's intelligent?" Not exactly, Alex replied. But it's definitely reactive. Every time we try to block it, it changes frequencies or intensifies its output. It's like it knows what we're doing. Patel frowned. That suggests intent. Someone, or something, is controlling it. Before Alex could respond, Commander Hayes entered the room, his expression grim. We've received new intel. Survivors on Mars report seeing a large entity approaching the colony. They believe it's connected to the orbs. Alex's stomach tightened. How big are we talking? Big enough to cause serious damage, Hayes replied. If it breaches the airlock, the entire colony could collapse. What about reinforcements? Patel asked. They're en route, but they won't arrive in time, Hayes admitted. For now, we're relying on local survivors to hold the line. One of them, a girl named Lily Monroe, has been coordinating efforts. She's resourceful, but she's also alone. Alex clenched his fists. There has to be something we can do. Send drones, deploy satellites? We're working on it, Hayes said. But until then, Lily's our best shot. Keep analyzing the signal. Find a way to disrupt it. Alex nodded, though doubt gnawed at him. How could one person possibly stand against something so vast and powerful? Back on Mars, Lily navigated the maintenance tunnels cautiously, her flashlight casting long shadows on the walls. The journey to Section D12 felt endless, each step fraught with tension. She listened intently for any sign of movement, ready to duck into hiding at the slightest noise. So far the tunnels were empty, but she knew the orbs could appear at any moment. Finally, she reached the entrance to Section D12. A makeshift barricade blocked the doorway, constructed from crates and metal panels. A man in his 30s stood guard, holding a wrench like a weapon. His face was streaked with dirt, but his eyes were sharp and alert. Who goes there? He demanded, stepping forward. It's Lily Monroe, she replied. I spoke with Emma earlier. The man relaxed slightly. Come on in, quick. He moved aside, allowing her to slip through the barricade. Inside, the space was cramped but organized. A group of about a dozen people huddled around a table littered with tools, maps, and scraps of paper. They looked tired but determined, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of portable lanterns. Emma stepped forward, extending a hand. Lily, right? I'm glad you made it. Me too, Lily said, shaking her hand. This is everyone? For now, Emma replied. Most of us are engineers or tech specialists. We've been trying to piece together a defense strategy, but resources are limited. Lily pulled the hard drive from her pocket. I brought data from the medical bay. It might help us understand the signal better. One of the men, a burly mechanic named Jake Riley, raised an eyebrow. You really think this is going to work? We're outnumbered and outgunned. It's better than sitting here waiting to die, Lily shot back. If we don't try, we lose everything. Jake stared at her for a moment, then nodded gruffly. Fair point, let's see what you've got. They set up a laptop and connected the hard drive, scrolling through the files. The logs confirmed what Lily already suspected. The signal targeted specific parts of the brain responsible for speech and cognition. It also revealed something new. The orbs weren't just sentinels. They were nodes, relaying information back to the visitor. If we can disable the orbs, Lily said, pointing to a diagram on the screen, we might be able to disrupt the network. How do we do that? Asked a young woman named Mia Chen, her voice hesitant. We overload them, Lily replied. Use electromagnetic pulses to fry their systems. It's risky, but it's our only shot. Emma glanced at the others, gauging their reactions. What do you think? Jake shrugged. It's crazy enough to work, but we'll need equipment and a lot of luck. We'll make it happen, Emma said firmly. Divide into teams. Some of us will gather supplies. The rest will start building the EMP devices. As the group dispersed, Lily felt a flicker of hope. For the first time since the silence began, she wasn't alone. These people, strangers united by desperation, were willing to fight alongside her. Together, they might actually stand a chance. Outside, the glowing entity loomed closer, its presence casting an ominous shadow over the colony. The airlock groaned under the pressure, straining against the force of whatever was trying to break through. Time was running out. But inside Section D12, the Resistance prepared for battle. Armed with makeshift weapons and fragile optimism, they vowed to protect what little remained of humanity's voice. Little did they know their actions would ripple far beyond Mars, sparking a chain reaction that would change the course of history. And at the center of it all stood Lily Monroe, a teenage girl who refused to stay silent, even when the world begged her to. The Resistance in Section D12 worked tirelessly, their movements quick and deliberate. The air was thick with tension, but also a strange sense of purpose. Each person knew the stakes. If they failed, the silence would consume them all. Yet, for the first time in days, there was hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, they could fight back. Lily Monroe moved among the group, her small frame buzzing with energy. She had never felt so alive, so needed. Every task she completed, sorting wires, testing circuits, assembling EMP devices, felt like another step toward reclaiming what had been stolen from humanity. Emma Lewis watched her closely, impressed by the girl's determination. "She's something else," Jake Riley muttered to Emma as he soldered a circuit board. "Who'd have thought a kid like her could keep us going?" Emma nodded, her eyes softening as she glanced at Lily. "She's got guts and brains. We're lucky to have her." Lily overheard the comment but didn't acknowledge it. There wasn't time for pride or doubt. The glowing entity outside was getting closer, its presence almost palpable even through the thick walls of the colony. The airlock groaned louder now, metal straining against an unseen force. It wouldn't hold much longer. "All right, listen. Up," Emma called out, raising her voice to be heard over the hum of activity. Everyone stopped what they were doing and gathered around her. "We've got 3 EMP devices ready. They're not perfect, but they'll do the job if we use them right. Our goal is simple: disable as many orbs as possible before that thing breaks through." "What about the big one?" Mia Chen asked nervously, pointing toward the airlock. "What happens if it gets inside?" "We deal with it," Emma replied firmly, though her expression betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. "One problem at a time. First, we focus on the orbs. Without them, the signal weakens. That gives us a fighting chance." Jake raised his hand. "How do we know where the orbs are? They move around too fast." "That's where Lily comes in," Emma said, turning to the teenager. "She's seen them up close. She knows how they operate. We'll split into teams and let her guide us." Lily swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "I'll do my best," she said quietly. "But I can't promise anything." "You don't have to," Emma assured her. "Just point us in the right direction. The rest is on us." The plan was risky, but it was all they had. The team divided into 3 groups, each carrying an EMP device. Lily joined Emma's group, along with Jake and 2 others, a young engineer named Sam and an older woman named Ruth who had once worked in colony security. Armed with flashlights and makeshift weapons, they set out into the tunnels, moving cautiously toward the central hub. The silence pressed down on them as they walked, broken only by the sound of their footsteps and the occasional drip of condensation from the pipes above. Every shadow seemed darker, every corner more menacing. Lily kept her flashlight trained ahead, scanning for any sign of movement. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to stay focused. "There," she whispered suddenly, stopping, in her tracks. A faint blue glow emanated from a nearby corridor, pulsating rhythmically like a heartbeat. "That's one of them." Emma signaled for the group to take cover behind a stack of crates. "Set up the EMP," she instructed. "We'll draw its attention while you activate it." Lily hesitated. "Are you sure this will work?" "It has to," Emma replied, gripping her wrench tightly. "Ready?" With a deep breath, Lily nodded. Emma stepped into the open, waving her arms and shouting to get the orb's attention. The glowing sphere immediately turned toward her, its light intensifying as it floated closer. Jake and Ruth followed suit, creating enough noise to distract it. Meanwhile, Sam crouched beside Lily, fiddling with the EMP device, His hands trembled slightly as he connected the final wire. "Almost done," he murmured. The orb darted toward Emma, who swung her wrench wildly, narrowly missing its surface. It emitted a high-pitched whine, the sound sending shivers down everyone's spines. Ruth threw a piece of scrap metal at it, striking it squarely. The orb paused, its glow flickering briefly before stabilizing again. "Now!" Emma shouted. Sam pressed the activation button, and the EMP device roared to life. A burst of electromagnetic energy surged outward, engulfing the orb in a blinding flash of light. For a moment, nothing happened. Then with a sharp crackle, the orb collapsed inward, dissolving into a shower of sparks. "Yes!" Jake exclaimed, pumping his fist in triumph. But their celebration was short-lived. From deeper within the tunnels came the unmistakable hum of more orbs approaching. Dozens of them, their combined glow illuminating the darkness like a swarm of fireflies. "We need to move," Emma ordered, grabbing Lily's arm. "Back to the others." They retreated quickly, their footsteps echoing loudly in the confined space. Behind them, the orbs pursued relentlessly, their speed increasing with every second. Just as they reached the junction leading back to Section D12, one of the orbs shot past them, cutting off their escape route. "Take cover," Emma yelled, shoving Lily behind a pile of debris. The orb hovered menacingly, its light casting eerie shadows on the walls. Before anyone could react, Ruth stepped forward, brandishing a long metal rod. With surprising agility, she lunged at the orb, striking it with all her strength. The impact sent it spinning wildly, giving the group precious seconds to regroup. "Go!" Ruth shouted, standing her ground. "I'll hold them off." "No!" Lily cried, reaching out toward her. "Listen to her," Emma snapped, pulling Lily away. "We can't afford to lose you." Tears streamed down Lily's face as they ran, leaving Ruth behind. Moments later, a loud crash echoed through the tunnels, followed by silence. No one dared look back. When they returned to Section D12, the other teams were already waiting, their faces grim. One of the EMP devices had been destroyed during their attempt to disable an orb cluster, leaving only 2 functional units. Worse still, the airlock had finally given way. Through the surveillance feed, they watched as the massive glowing entity squeezed through the breach, its form shifting and writhing like liquid metal. "It's inside," Mia whispered, her voice trembling. Emma clenched her jaw, her mind racing. "We've got 2 EMPs left. If we hit it directly, maybe we can slow it down." "But what then?" Sam asked. "Even if we stop it, the signal is still active. People won't wake up." Lily stepped forward, her voice steady, despite the fear coursing through her veins. "Then we go to the source, to Saturn. Whatever's controlling this, it's coming from the visitor. If we can reach it, we might be able to shut it down for good." The room fell silent as everyone processed her words. Finally, Emma spoke. "It's insane, impossible. But it's the only option we've got." Jake shook his head. "You're talking about flying into the heart of an alien structure? We don't even know if it's safe." "We don't have a choice," Lily insisted. "If we stay here, we die. If we try, at least we have a chance." Emma studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, we'll send a message to Commander Hayes, ask for reinforcements, and a ship. In the meantime, we prepare for the worst." As the group dispersed to make final preparations, Lily stood alone, staring at the surveillance feed. The glowing entity loomed larger than ever, its presence filling the screen like a living nightmare. She clenched her fists, resolve burning in her chest. Humanity had been silenced, but she refused to let it end here. Not while she still had a voice.